what everyone thinks is cyanobacteria only live in the water, but they don't. They live in the soil as well. They do need water to proliferate, but they're environmentally hardy as hell. Live in the South Pole, live in the deserts, live out on your farm. They don't like chemicals.
Yeah, it's a common misconception, isn't it, that they only live in the water? I mean, sure. I mean, they're everywhere, in sea spray even, but on the farm, it's an unusual sort of concept to think that they've made it out to the farm. But I guess everything at one point was underwater, so.
Yeah, well, the evidence is plain. I mean, it's well documented that they live in the farm. I think the part that you've got to come to grips with is that when we're actually looking at the growth in the carbon, and we'll see in the video today, or parts of what day, our last test showed that we grew 10 tonnes of carbon per hectare in the 150 to 300 mil profile last year on the bottom part of the farm.
Yeah.
Which then equates to about 20 tonnes of dry matter you grew, which is phenomenal. That's above the ground.
Yeah.
But the cows ate it and took it away, and they left the shit in bits and pieces. So where did the rest of the weight come from? So it came out of these guys, and people are not recognising that they are the best cover crop or the best regenerative of our soils. They have not identified that these guys are the most prolific. They will do the biggest job, but they need nurturing.
So they're the regenerating motor, the big regenerator.
Yeah,
that doesn't like aluminium, if I've learned anything from you, and doesn't like chemicals.
That's right. They're the big kahuna, but you can't even see them. And so we've got some examples as we move on through this process, just to see what the accumulation is like from how prolific they are.
Okay, well, let's have a look. The first one here reminds us a little bit of what we saw last week, because we've got that slide from the increase on the land of carbon.
That's right.
Right. But we're drawing that correlation with the cyanobacteria.
Yeah, well, see, from the one we did last week, when I said to you, if we increase the soil carbon by 1% in a certain in an area of 1 hectare within 150 mil depth, well, these are the figures that you get.
Mm.
Well, I got the soil test back a couple of days after we did the video.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'd done.
Is that right? And you got it back just within a couple of days of it?
After he came back. So, yeah. And it wasn't in the top 150 this year.
Okay.
It did it in the bottom 150. The top one stayed. And so I'm seeing these changes in the minerals status and how it's going on and how my soils are getting deeper and how much more grass we're growing.
Mm.
Now, when you look at this nitrogen-fixing cyanobacteria, look at the array of them. There's millions of the damn things. I mean, there's unbelievable quantities of them.
Yeah.
But if you're going to produce nitrogen, you're going to come out of the atmosphere and you're going to photosynthesize, then you've got carbon. You cannot have no carbon. So this is what's happened. We've increased the carbon. We've put all the nitrogen in the soil. The phosphorus has become available. Sulfur has become available. So now my soil depth is growing. And we've seen a very reflective amount of growth above the ground is relative to what we get going on below the ground.
Okay, and for people who are fixated on nitrogen, then you're growing your nitrogen at the same time.
I've got a nitrogen factory.
Yeah. It's kind of not the point, but for a starting sort of entry point to go, okay, maybe this is something to look at, and you're really buying nitrogen all the time, then this is like, all right.
Yeah, instead of going to Caponi and buying gas to make nitrogen, I've just sorted out the environment for the cyanobacteria to produce it ourselves.
Yeah.
And so hence we've got the carbon, water holding capacity, available nitrogen, and in the summer what happens is the sun beats down and there's a bit of oxidation in the carbon. So there's nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur released. And then in the wintertime when it cools off and the grass doesn't grow so much, the cyanobacteria go bonkers because they're not so fixated with temperature. They're actually more about energy from that sunlight. They're actually much more efficient at photosynthesis than pasture species are and higher plants.
Really?
Way more efficient. So we know that if we can actually create the right environment in the wintertime, they'll regenerate. And they love that moisture. Like say, and that's when we see the big growth in the winter because the temperature is lower, but there is moisture and they can go, yippee, let's go.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is an interesting one. This is calcium forming as limestone, but it's the accumulation of cyanobacteria's activity.
Yeah, so this is one that a particular form that has a lot of calcium in its structure. Okay, but it's calcium carbonate. Okay, well, it's what lime stated.
Right.
Okay, so it's bringing the calcium in and it's bringing the carbon in. Okay, and the idea is that in the ocean, in certain environments where the ocean currents come and the right nutrient flow comes, these tiny microorganisms, each individual grows a skeletal form of calcium carbonate, dies, falls to the bottom of the ocean. And we've all seen how big lime quarries are and how massive they are. Well, they all started off, the majority of them started off with little wee, tiny little microbes, and so these stacked on top. And so this is the same with sea-based diatoms.
Okay.
So that they're in that form. They are a silica-based framework. Yeah. So the same thing, massive deposits.
Is this actually, when you look at them up close there, is that actually, are we looking at cyanobacteria, each of those little circles?
You'd have to go back and look at all the information that we were looking at. But what it's doing is it's really blowing up to try and give you an idea of all the organisms that were involved in it.
Because that's a close-up on it, isn't it?
Yes, very close up, yeah.
But, well, actually, I mean, the background shot there that we chose to put behind that is a quarry. And lime is something that people consider quite important. So, hey, look, here's another connection to the very important cyanobacteria.
Absolutely. And this is part of what we're seeing in the soils is that when we feed them correctly or give the right environment, the biology that takes over and the interaction with the plants and what grows is quite phenomenal for what your own requirements are. There's a signaling event going on up and down the plants and what the biology is and that. And so nature's far smarter than we are. You know, we've got all this electronic stuff and internet. They've got mycorrhiza and electronic signaling and all sorts of stuff. So, do you think that we've reinvented something that's been going on a few million years?
No.
No.
Nothing new under the sun, as they say.
No, nothing new under the sun. It's just a slightly different concept there.
Yeah.
So this is how prolific they can be.
Keen to dive deeper? Check out our audiobook and EcoFarmers Discovery on Spotify, or grab our free ebook, The 6 Things You Need to Improve Soil and Farm Profit. Links in the description.